Good morning, traders. I'm Emily Bonney, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Wednesday, December 11th. We hold our collective breath as we await the latest inflation data this morning. Yesterday, markets seemed to be doing the same. All three major indices closed off slightly. The Dow gave up 154 points, or 0.35%. The S&P 500 shed 17 points, or 0.3%. The NASDAQ lost 49 points, or 0.25%. Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Hi, yes, good morning, Emily. I'm watching S&Ps. We're up a little over a tenth of 1%, 0.11%. That's positive going into today, especially because we'll get that key economic report, the CPI report coming out today. The trading range is tight. I mean, it's not very wild, but you're seeing muted action because we really want to see what that happens with the economic report. Even though I think inflation is going to run a little hotter than expected, but we'll have to wait and see. It comes out 1 hour before the opening bell. What else do we have going on? Dave & Buster's plays falling after their CEO departs and an earnings miss. I see that there's a bipartisan bill in the Senate that's looking to introduce legislation that will prevent pharmacy benefit managers like Cigna and CVS from owning pharmacies. They'd have to sell off their pharmacies. That could be interesting. What else? The NASDAQ 100. Okay. PLTR and MSTR. These are names that are being considered to be replaced when they do the rebalancing of the NASDAQ 100. This could be announced Friday after the close. You've seen Palantir. Palantir has been on a real run lately, and that could be the cause of it. They had the meeting in November, but the announcement is until Friday. So let's keep an eye on that. Listen, that inflation report, that's going to be the key thing today. That's going to be the momentum maker for the markets. If it runs too hot, this market will weaken. But it is a key, economic indicator for the Fed, and the Fed has their monetary meeting next week. This week we got, today we got a monetary policy meeting from Canada. The Bank of Canada is expected to lower their interest rates by 50 basis points at their meeting. And tomorrow we get the ECB, and the ECB is expected to lower their interest rates by 25 basis points. And I think the Swiss bank is also has their monetary policy meeting tomorrow as well. M&A action, painting the tape, that's really true. We got a lot going on in the M&A sector. But this morning I'm seeing some, positive action in banks and autos and even tech. So, that's good to see. But looking overseas, we're looking at the DAX. The DAX is actually down now. It's down 0.02%. That's flat. I mean, it was flat to higher. Now it's flat to lower. It's a real cautious environment because in Germany they have a couple of issues going on. They have to worry about the ECB tomorrow and the inflation report today. The FTSE has turned. That was negative. It's now trading higher by 20 points, 0.24%. What else do we see? France is up 0.21%. French President Macron has announced that he's gonna appoint a prime minister in the next 48 hours, he said yesterday. So that could be positive. In Asia last night, Asia was mixed. It was, I'd say, mixed to higher. The Nikkei was flat. It was up 4 points. Nothing significant. Defense stocks gained while utility stocks fell in Japan. Hong Kong fell 156 points, or 0.77%. The Shanghai was up almost 10 points, or 0.29%. It's really about that Central Economic Work Conference that started today. Now, they're going to be setting their economic targets and outlining their stimulus plans for 2025. Earlier in the week, the Politburo came out and said that they're going to be adopting a moderately looser stance on monetary policy. So it's kind of good news, but they're really waiting for it. They're a little concerned about the inflation report, how that's going to happen, and of course how the stimulus announcement that could be happening tomorrow or Friday out of China. And then we're keeping an eye on oil because oil is moving higher. Oil is up over 1% this morning, which is kind of surprising because number one, API stockpile estimates, they unexpectedly increased by about 500,000 barrels, 499,000 barrels for the week ending December 6th. Now, the expectation was, of course, was for a draw of 1.3 million barrels. The fact that they came in with a build, that's negative. We get the EIA data later today. That's going to be the official data, but the focus really is on that China stimulus, which is expecting. So if the oil market is expecting China stimulus, you want to be paying attention to that because that stimulus could affect the economics of Chinese stocks. And that's what I have for you in terms of morning market update this morning, Emily.
Bill, as we hear in that opening, a number of simultaneous factors driving the markets today. That inflation report is a key driver, and we will get to the day's economic events in more depth in just a moment. But before we get there, we also heard you mention a number of earnings. And so we're going to start there. Bill, what is going on in terms of the day's earnings action?
Dave & Buster's, ticker play, PLAY, they missed by 9 cents on lower revenue and the CEO's departing. That stock's down 13.32% this morning. We got GameStop, ticker GME, Grace Michael Edward. They beat by 9 cents, but it was on lower revenue. You look at GameStop this morning, it's down slightly. It's essentially flat on the day. It was down hard. It was up. It went down, and now it's just flat. So we'll see if this report does anything. In terms of Macy's, ticker M, they did release this morning. They did deliver a beat of 1 cent on higher revenue, but the guidance was kind of ugly. That stock's down 10% this morning. What else do we have upcoming? Listen, after the bell today, we got Nordstrom's, ticker NDSN. Their EPS is $2.59. Expected move is 4.39%. Adobe, ticker ADBE. Their EPS is $4.66, and the expected move is 8.31%. Now, remember, Adobe fell last quarter after the report due to their revenue guidance, which came in weaker than expected. So the bar is lower for Adobe, which you do like to see. So Adobe's in a little bit better of a position than what happened with Oracle the other night, but because of the lower expectations. But we'll have to see if Adobe's able to come through with the beat this afternoon when they release, Emily.
And Bill, before we get to the day's economic events, I will point out that Macy's was your pick of the day yesterday. We hear it is down today, but we're going to take a look back at yesterday and see if we were able to walk away with a gain. We're going to do that by the end of the show, so stick with us through the end. But now shifting to the main headline today, the economic events and the CPI report. Bill, what is going on in terms of economic events today?
Yeah, the key one is the Consumer Price Index report, the CPI report that's coming out at 8:30 this morning. All at 10:30, you get the EIA oil stockpiles reports. That's going to be a key one as well. But that CPI is expected to show prices increase 0.3% month on month, and 2.7% annually. Core inflation is seen rising 0.3% as well. On Monday you had that U.S. inflation expectation report from the Fed Bank of New York, and it showed that inflation is expected to increase about 0.1% on all three major and on their three views: the 1 year, the 3 year, and 5 year. This is kind of current worrisome for me. A rise in inflation could stop the rate cuts that the Fed is doing. I really think they're going to come out and say on next week that they're going to be pausing rate cuts because they don't understand, President-elect Trump's economic plan. He makes a lot of statements, but what is really his plan? We don't know. Are these negotiating points or is this his actual plan? We'll have to wait and see. But that's why the Fed, is going to be cautious, and they're going to, side on the air of caution and probably tell you next week that they're going to be holding back and taking a pause on interest rate cuts for the foreseeable future. But we've got a week to go before that announcement happens. But that's what I have for you in terms of economic report this morning, Emily.
Ahead of that announcement, Bill, it is important to watch this data. And again, we're trying to track and take a guess at what might be happening next with markets looking forward. And, anticipating these types of events. But when it comes to gathering information in tandem with those economic events and earnings report, there's a bunch of corporate headlines today. The merger ticker is hot today, with Walgreens and Kroger, expected mergers. So we're going to dive into some other news here. You look at your news using NewsWare and creating these alerts for different types of news. Like I said, merger news. You're also looking at guidance news, which is a big driver, especially after earnings releases. You're looking at shareholders meetings, buyback news, catalyst calls, and to watch any trends on the trading day, you're looking at stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Okay, let's take a quick look. I'm doing a quick data check, and I do see that I got 16 Dow stocks higher, 13 lower, but my FANG stocks are all higher. I mean, they're all showing gains, and that's kind of nice in the morning, And then you look for some of the news behind the tape, like Apple. Apple's now, Apple Intelligence now features seamless support from Chat GPT. They're integrating that in with their Siri Apple devices, which I guess is positive. Amazon launches an online car dealership deal with Hyundai. Google asked the FTC to break up Microsoft's exclusive deal to host open AI technology on its cloud servers. Netflix at the UBS conference, Netflix co-CEO, says that they're very positive on sports leagues, and they feel that their younger audience will really be a benefit to a lot of these um, live sporting events, and they think that they're going to blow up the ratings for WWE wrestling when that comes online. What else do we see at Tesla? I see that Goldman Sachs keeps its neutral rating on Tesla, but they raised the stock price to the price target to 345 from 250. Very positive. You see Tesla up 1.8% this morning on that news. Let's talk Dow Jones 30 stocks. Let's talk Walmart for a second. WMT. They're seen as a beneficiary of this Kroger Albertson merger deal that's off the table now, because Walmart is one of the country's biggest grocers. Honeywell, ticker HON. I see that their CEO is going to be attending the Malus Research Conference today. Merger news. Kroger, a district court judge, ruled yesterday that $24.6 billion takeover of Kroger by Albertsons by Kroger would reduce competition for U.S. grocery stores. So he's not going to allow that to move forward. WBA, Walgreens Boots Alliance, Journal reported yesterday that Walgreens is in talk to sell itself privately to Sycamore Partners. I don't know. Sycamore Partners might walk away from this deal. I mean, Walgreens is in a tailspin. Ever since they bought out Boots Alliance, it's been really difficult for them. Maybe if they sold it off, it could be value, but Walgreens is having a tough time. But you look at CVS, that's been falling out hard. You look at the news about the pharmacy benefit managers having to sell their interest in pharmacies. That's I don't know if this deal will move forward, but we'll keep an eye on it. FIGS, ticker FIGS, Frank India Gray Sam. This is in a healthcare apparel firm. Okay, they received a $6 per share buyout from a private equity group yesterday. That's positive. In terms of guidance news, Macy's cut its full year 2024 adjusted EPS to $2.25 to $2.50. The street had it at $2.75. That's why the stock's getting hit. $2.73 they had it at, excuse me. Lowe's, ticker LOW, they released guidance this morning, 1180 to 1190. Street estimate has it 1190. That's a downtick. GE Veranova, ticker GEV, Grace Edward Victor. They see full year 2025 EPS coming in 36 billion to 37 billion. Street has it at 37.26 billion. That's a downtick. Shareholders meetings today, Lowe's and Matched, MTCH. They're having shareholders meetings today. Look, Lowe's already came out with updated guidance figures. LSCC, Larry, Sam, Charlie. Lattice Developers Conference is going on today. In terms of buyback news, Mondelez, ticker MLDZ, they approved a 9 billion share repurchasing program that was announced this morning. Prudential Financials Board approved a 1 billion share buyback program, and GE Veranova, ticker GEV, their board approved the initial 6 billion share repurchasing authorization. Ooh, nice news. In terms of catalyst calls, Listen, that story about PLTR and MSTR being potentially added to the NASDAQ 100 index, which could be announced Friday. Wow, that's positive. That's why you've seen the stock rally as of late. I mean, it could go higher. But, Friday, I mean, it's kind of like when you got to start selling the news because, once it's added, it's added. ZBH, Zebra Boy Henry, Citibank opens up a 90-day positive catalyst watch on Zimmer Biomet this morning. And that's what I have for you about news hitting the tape today, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, there's caution in the air ahead of the CPI report, but you're still looking for opportunities, digging through all of this information. So what is your pick of the day today?
Yeah, that CPI report. I mean, it could sink all the boats this morning, but we gotta look for something that could move, like Micron. That's my pick of the day. Micron, ticker MU. Michael Uncle. Earnings are next week. They're not on near term, but they are next week, and that should be able to provide support for the stock. Now, yesterday's call volume was 157,258, but the put volume was only 50,281. That's like a 31, ratio. That's positive. Open interest is about even, 864K to 803K. Okay, major brokers like the setup. They've been raising price targets. Now, ahead of the CPI report, it's hard to say. I mean, I'd like to say 97.50 if the CPI report comes in hot and the stock's starting to sink. But if the CPI report is benign and not really moving stocks, I'll say, under 99, 98, 85 maybe, but around 98, 85 to 99, somewhere in that range, because I do think you can pop over to 100 today. But that's how I'm looking at it. That's my feeling. I'm doing this because earnings are next week, and I think we were going to start seeing Micron starting to run, and tech is showing some gains this morning, so it could be positive this morning. So I like Micron, ticker MU. Michael Uncle this morning, Emily.
We will follow Micron along with you today. And coming up, we will do a recap on yesterday's pick of the day, as I promised earlier in the show. But ahead of that, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our Hot Off the Press segment. Bill, take it away.
Okay, let's see what we got here this morning. Eli Lilly announced the results of its Ember 3 study. Hershey shares edged lower after Mondelez approves large buyback. Yeah, because, Mondelez is unlikely to buy Hershey Foods if they're doing a $6 billion buyback. That makes sense to me. And plus, like I said yesterday, Hershey Foods, you got so many roadblocks in order to do a deal here. The state of Pennsylvania would be a roadblock. The Hershey's Trust would be a roadblock. Yeah, I didn't see this deal happening. Hershey's down 4.6% this morning. Vera Bradley, ticker VRA, Victor Richard Apple, they approved the 30 million share repurchasing authorization. That pharmacy benefit deal legislation. It's being backed by what's her name? The senator from Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren. Her name should not be attached to it. I think that's a mistake to attach her name to that bill, and that's not going to be a positive in order to get that bill passed. Plus, you got to fight a lot of lobbyers. So lobbyers are going to be out in force on that deal. Bausch and Lomb, BLCO, they're going to be requiring Ellis Vision. Bausch and Lomb, BHC, they're under watch to take over. But Blackstone, ticker BX, they're likely to drop out of that bid as the price is just too high. Coca-Cola, ConAgra, General Mills, Kellanova, Kraft Heinz, Mondelez, Pepsi, Post Holdings, Kellogg. I mean, these are the major food companies out there. And there's a new lawsuit on Tuesday that accused them of designing and marketing ultra-processed foods to be addictive to children, causing chronic disease. Yeah, that's true. They do that. It's going to be a tough lawsuit for them to beat. General Motors said yesterday that they're going to be ending their robo-taxi development and its majority ownership in that money-losing cruise business. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we sign off and prepare for trading today, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day. We pointed out earlier in the show was Macy's. Now, you did give us a look at their earnings during your earnings report, but we will dive in a little bit here. For its third quarter, the company reported adjusted earnings of 4 cents per share. That was ahead of Wall Street's estimate of 3 cents. Net sales of $4.74 billion were in line with a consensus. But it did cut its financial outlook for 2024, as you mentioned during your NewsWare alerts. Another headline when it comes to Macy's on the tape this morning, their probe found that employee in that $151 million accounting scandal was acting alone. That did hit the tape this morning. You were trading this one yesterday. It is down today, as we both pointed out. But Bill, how did your call work out?
Listen, I had no intentions of holding this one into earnings because the fact of the matter is the earnings were supposed to come out 2 weeks ago. They postponed it, and when you postpone an earnings release, that's typically negative. So you don't really want to be long it, going into earnings. But listen, Macy's. Look at the numbers. Stock opened up at $16.75, and then it fell down to $16.45. My entry price, what was it? Remember, $16.50. I was 5 cents above it. That's positive. And then the stock rallied. It rallied all the way up to $17.01. That's 2% from the opening price, or 1%, 2% from my entry price, or 1% from the opening price. So Macy's was a good win. It was a winner. But holding it into earnings, I wasn't going to do that because, there's just too many negatives. I mean, Macy's has got to do a lot of restructuring for in the near future. Their stores are just too big. I mean, we've discussed this before that Macy's needs to cut their footprint, but they are the anchor tenant in most malls across America. But they got to, keep that flagship store on 34th Street, and they got to lower their footprint in malls that they have across the country, and they got to do something with some of their premium brands, like that they have, where they lower the footprints in those stores as well. But that's but Macy's worked out at the end of the day, so I can't complain. I like Macy's. Macy's was a winner, Emily.
That was a win indeed, and you did tell us right here on the show that you weren't going to hold it into earnings because you weren't sure what's going to happen after all sort of that chaos over the last couple weeks. So you were able to walk away with a gain, and we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Micron pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily ADBE, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.